I'd call the order the Parks Board meeting Monday, April the 22nd. Do we have any citizens' comments down there anywhere? I looked on the way in, but I don't think so. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance, please.
Would you do the honor? Sure will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball. All right. Kind of got out of whack there a little bit, but that's all right. I'll accept an approval of the minutes. Yes, sir. And second, Mr. Bennett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. I think we have a couple of presentations, if I'm correct, sir.
Yes, sir.
And very well deserved at that. You have to do the Pledge of Allegiance by yourself.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have two gentlemen here tonight that we would like to recognize and honor for their many years of service to our Parks Board and to our city. The first one is Mr. Randy Campbell, if you want to come up, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell served on the Parks Board for a very long time through some years of extreme growth and helped in making some very wise choices that have helped get us where we are today. His influence in our community goes way beyond parks and to things that he does for the youth, and he's missed, but not too far away to where I'm sure he wouldn't mind being a resource for us if we ever need it. We have a plaque here and a shirt for you.
All right.
Which is nice.
Very nice. Thank you.
And it says, in grateful recognition of Randy Campbell, thank you for your many years of service to the Hendersonville Parks Board, our park system, and to the entire city of Hendersonville. So thank you, Mr. Campbell. If you want to say anything, be happy to have
you. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. It's always been a privilege to serve the city and this department and the board. And I'd just like to thank you for tonight's acknowledgement. And with everything that's going on, and whether it's today or over the last many years in the city, the one thing that everybody can be proud of is what's happened with our parks, not just the way that they continue to grow, but the way that they're maintained and the leadership that we've had and have now. And I've just been appreciative to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Don't get carried away with that shirt. I think we all get one. So.
I think you have to retire to get one or leave the board.
I don't know. Do you know something? I don't know.
I don't know. Mr. Richards, if you'd like to come up here. I know. Mr. Bobby Richards has been on this Parks Board since longer than I can remember. I know the answer, and I'm not. If you want to tell how many years, you can, but I'm not going to say. He has helped preside through some years of good times, some rough times, some hard times, and some great times. His influence is felt not only in our park system, but on the many youth that he coached and mentored over the years. There's people still today coaching that probably played for him. He, as far as I know, still walks our parks and looks for things to help us with. And it's hard to kind of put into words what somebody means that's sat up there that long and helped make so many decisions that have influenced where we are today. And nobody deserves to be recognized more than you do. And I appreciate you being here as I started, and the words you've said some words to me that have made me feel very good, and I appreciate that. And you're missed greatly, not able to replace somebody. You just kind of fill a void. But we appreciate everything you've done and always will appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.
People know I don't say a lot unless I'm into it, but it's been an honor. And a lot of struggles where we come from to this today, but I appreciate every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby.
One thing I want you to know before you leave here, you brought something to our attention that we had never even considered, and that is lights at the crosswalks in the park. And we are working right now to get that taken care of. So
Thank you. Say something.
you got it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's a lot of experience walking away from that podium. Appreciate it, Bobby. All right, under old business, sponsor donor recognition discussion. Mr. Gilly?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. In your packet on pages 5 through 8 is the actual plan that we presented at the last meeting just for you to review. I'm happy to take any questions. What this is kind of an expansion of something that you all had approved that kind of needed some work to make sure it was in line with city ordinances. We feel like this will give us ways to recognize people that make large contributions. It will also give us a way to differentiate between what advertising and sponsorship actually is. If anybody has any questions on this, I would ask for a motion to recommend approval of it. And this I will take to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen because I don't think this is something that just us as the Parks Board needs to approve. I think we need to have buy-in from everybody before something like this gets put into place. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Y'all want a couple of minutes, excuse me, a couple of minutes to look that over? Wish we had the theme from Jeopardy. Any questions on there? Go ahead, sir. Mr. Head.
At the end, other issues, there's a paragraph or little statement, all sponsor fees collected will be placed in a revenue account. Is that everybody, or is that just in general, you're talking if it's a city that's sponsored, because you have individual leagues that sponsor down there?
This will be just there.
What page is that on?
That's on page 8, at the very back.
In 2017, I believe there was a line item placed in the parks budget for sponsorships, and that was intended for things that the Parks Department actually went out and got sponsorships for projects and things. It's not necessarily like the Civitan gets somebody to sponsor a jersey. We're not saying that money's going in that line item. That makes sense. We're talking like we build a turf field and somebody donates $100,000. That would go in that line item. We have the line item in the budget. It just has nothing in it right now because we hadn't had a mechanism to get it.
Mr. Frank, do you have a question, sir?
Just kind of looking at, the guidelines look great. They're very thorough. I think when it comes to the practical, is there another, am I missing a spot, or can someone direct me to who oversees it and who is the gateway to requesting funds out of it, or?
You asking me?
I think I'm just.
The intent would be to spend money raised on the sport or club or fields that use that area where you're actually doing the work.
Right.
Some differences in that could be if we have some kind of project where we build a wall of fame, for example, or we have, there's no way to really direct who that should benefit the most. But the intent would be if somebody wants to donate money to help benefit soccer, then we would have a way to put that right back. And I guess basically you're counting on your Parks Department to make sure that gets in the right place.
I guess maybe I should do a better job of asking clearer questions, because,
Good.
but when that money is there, let's say somebody wants to donate bleachers for soccer, between fields 3 and 4, something like that. Would it be the board? Would it be an individual? Would it be the city? Would it be, who's going to go ahead and get that thing rolling?
That would be submitted to the park staff first, and then we would bring it here.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
It's kind of in section, I'm at the bottom of page 7, top of 8, number 3, A, B, C, D.
I read that as submittal to agree to the sponsorship. I just, not being technical, but
I understand. Well, maybe we need to add some language before it goes further.
let's say the $100,000 is there to turf a field in the
Mhm.
name of lacrosse or whatever it is. Once it's there, who starts the process getting it back out and the work being done? I think that was my question.
The money would actually have to be accepted and appropriated by a vote of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen
Okay,
into that account. Anytime somebody makes a donation, we can direct where it goes, but it takes an ordinance to accept it and appropriate it.
okay.
So that, it would take 7 votes of the Board, Mayor, and Alderman to get it into that line item. But typically, I would say 99% of the time, if they didn't vote to put that money in that line item, the person probably wouldn't give that money.
So did all the civic groups get to see this?
I am not sending anything like this out to a civic group until you approve it. They will get to see it.
Okay.
I guess my question would be of the board members, are we familiar with the body of this program enough to cast a vote? If everybody is in on that, I would accept a motion, but if you have questions that we either haven't had time to look this over or need more time, I'll accept that. Other than that, I would accept a motion to approve this.
Well, I'd be happy to make the motion to move forward with this, approving taking it to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for their consideration and approval. And I'm assuming at that point, that's when we would be communicating with the civic groups as to what they're doing. And as I look at this, I may look at this wrong, I don't think this is infringing on anything the civic groups are doing as far as getting their own sponsorships. Am I reading that and understanding that correctly? That their sponsorships are still going to go through them?
To be quite honest, a lot of this would still probably go through a civic group. It would just give us as a city an ability to help more regularly than, like sometimes now, the civic groups are having to go to members of the community and ask for very large amounts of money, knowing that it's going to filter back into a city project because we don't have an ability to really do that. So to me, this helps us work with the civic groups to work on large sponsorships and recognition of people who donate money.
I have a motion from Mr. White. Do I have a second? Mr. Head, any more discussion?
Just to the process from here would be, we would take it to the general committee, and then 2 weeks after that, they would take it to the full board. So you're talking about a month. In the meantime, we will send this to the civic group, so if they have questions, they'll have 2 chances to speak on it.
Thank you, Mr. Gilly. Any more questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, fellas. Parks project updates, Mr. Gilly.
Yes, sir. We have a good list of projects going on. The Volunteer Park Concession Project, The building will be open this weekend for the Tennessee United tournament, restrooms and the concessions. We had to do a change order. We're switching to all concrete instead of asphalt around the building for the trail that goes across the bridge, so that may or may not be done by this week, but the building will be open. It's been a long process. Mary's Magical Place, as of today, weather permitting, will be open by this weekend. The flooring should be done, landscaping hopefully will be open by this weekend. Our LED light projects, there's still some grass and mud and dirt work to be done, but the lights are on all of our lights that we had on, $410,000 worth of new lights in Volunteer and now at Drakes Creek football and softball field 1. They look beautiful. It makes a huge difference. When we get to the budget, I'll kind of talk to you a little bit about that, what we've requested to keep that going forward. To me, it's a necessity that we, as a city, get out in front of this and start replacing to LED. Rugby fields are scheduled to break ground in May. Everything's moving forward on that. And then we have ongoing flood repairs. Field 1, most notably, is the most expensive and most complicated project. That's scheduled to start May the 12th, a total renovation of that field that was damaged in the flood. And then we have several other projects that are still going on to help recover from the flood. That's all I have on all the projects for now.
Is that Volunteer at Arrowhead? Is that
Volunteer Park at Arrowhead, yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
I wasn't sure which one we were talking about, so I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, real quick update on those, the lightning detectors over there, if you
Sure.
don't mind. I've had people ask.
The lightning detection is installed in Drakes Creek. It has worked perfectly twice so far, where it's went off, the fields were cleared, everybody, at both times that it's happened, 10 minutes after it's went off, a heavy rain has come down, so everybody's left. We haven't had a situation where it's gone off, not rained, and people come back in. But the 3 horns, that for those of us that stayed past the rain, they have gone back off and could have returned to play if it wouldn't have had a heavy rain. We have installed it at Veterans, but it's not hooked up yet, and we will install it at Volunteer Park at Arrowhead as soon as we get the keys to the building this week. We're ready to go on that. So far, it's worked the way it should. We have, we're still waiting on policy from one league as to how they're going to handle it, but we have policies for all the other leagues at this point.
What league is that?
That would be the recreational soccer.
Got it. Okay. All right, any questions?
Will it be working at Vets by this weekend?
Should be. Should be.
Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Mhm.
Before we move on to new business, I want to apologize to the board for missing the last 2 meetings. One of them was due to sickness, and I think I probably could have been here for that one. The other one was my wife's secret birthday party, which I would not have missed for much of anything, so I do apologize for not being here. Under new business, Middle Tennessee Baseball All-Star Game, Mr. Gilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's on page 9 and 10 in your packet. This is a great event that typically is held at Vanderbilt each year. It is for all the senior players in Middle Tennessee. Coaches at all the high schools are asked to nominate their best seniors, and they put them together. There's 4 classifications of players. You got single A, double A, triple A, and then private schools. They combine those 2 into 4 teams and play 2 games. And I've coached in the event at Vanderbilt. It is one of the best events I've ever been a part of in high school baseball. The talent that will be on the field will be the best of the graduating class, because all the kids have gotten to where they want to come play. We do have in the park that same day Raise the Praise concert that night. So the game times for this will be 11 and 2, and hopefully we'll get out before the big crowd, the throng of people comes in for Raise the Praise. But if not, they can go enjoy the praise after the ball games.
I would think so, too. All right, sir. Andy, I noticed under here you don't have a rain-out policy. Is that not going to happen if it?
As of right now, there is no rain date. We're hoping with us having turf that we'll be able to get through the game. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Questions? Thank you, Mr. Gilly. Country LAX Festival.
We probably need to approve it.
Say again?
We probably need to approve it.
I did what?
Make a motion, we approve. Second.
Well, I thought we did that. Okay, good enough. Who made the motion? That was Mr. Frank, who seconded it. All right, Mr. Bennett, any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All in favor of firing Ken say, okay. Watch it, Mr. Head. I asked a question and I felt like I was back over there again. All right, Country LAX Festival. Mr. Long?
Thank you. Yes, this is on page 11 and 12. This is a lacrosse tournament that is typically held at Moss Wright Park in Goodlettsville, and they're a group of people I worked with for about 3 years when I was over in Goodlettsville. And unfortunately, with Moss Wright's fields being closed this year, Goodlettsville canceled the tournament on them. So they were looking for additional space to move their tournament, and we were fortunate to be able to make it work with them. They are out of Chicago. They are Lacrosse America, and they go all around the country putting on these huge national lacrosse tournaments every summer. They're going to look at having about 50 to 60 teams, and according to them, that's about 120, 130 soccer teams that we would typically have at a Tennessee United tournament. Their rosters are about 20 to 25 players. They flew down from Chicago last week, and our entire staff here, we met with them and got a game plan of how we would take care of this tournament. Sumner County Tourism has they're willing to donate 2 shuttle buses, and we got the church across the street from Demos to allow us to use that lot as additional parking. We also met today with the police department on a traffic flow plan, so they're on board with that. We're going to have additional police presence throughout the event, and let's see what else. We also have a big USSSA softball tournament in the park that weekend. We will be moving. We'll do the same that we do with the Tennessee United tournament. So fields 8, 9, 10, 11. We'll move those over to Veterans Park to accommodate all the traffic that we'll have with this lacrosse tournament. I think that's about covers it all.
For the motion, any questions? I'll entertain a motion, okay? Mr. Head, second. Mr. Frank?
If I might,
Go
real
ahead.
quick, I just want to say on camera and publicly how great a job these people sitting to my left did selling our city. Jeremy, Andrea, Dallas, and Keith, who's not here tonight. I will tell you right now, I had nothing to do with this event coming here. But they did a lot of great work, and this is a big deal economically for our city. So I just want to make sure that you all are aware of that, and that everybody watching on TV was aware of that. Phenomenal job.
And that's why you're a staff, so that's good. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to say I don't know where this will go from this year. We might have a chance of keeping this tournament. We might have a chance of working with Moss Wright Park, kind of like what we do for Tennessee United, and kind of have the teams split between the parks, or they may go back to Goodlettsville next year once their fields are up. One thing we want to do is help out our neighbor for this year and help out our community. If we were to lose this tournament, even when they play in Goodlettsville, it impacts Hendersonville quite a bit. So, we wanted to make sure that we could do whatever we could to help out for this year.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Mr. Long. Motorcycle ride. Ms. Sweeney? Welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Make sure push the red button there, or the button in the middle there. And don't let him
Okay.
mention a no. Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
State your name, ma'am.
Susan Sweeney.
Okay, go right
I
ahead.
am with the Hendersonville Homebound Meals Program, and I brought a couple of people with me today. Bill Walker, who is the president, and Steve Barber, who is the owner of Volunteer Motorcycle Training Services. The Homebound Meals Board has one major fundraiser. We are a 501c3, and I do have the documentation with me tonight. And that's a pancake breakfast silent auction that's held every October. But it cost us about $10,000 a month to feed about between 110 to 115 people a day. We're essentially if you don't know about us, I do also have some brochures for you, but we're essentially the Meals on Wheels for Hendersonville. And we have to purchase our food, and it costs us about $10,000 a month to do that. And the only way that we can get that money is through fundraisers, through grants, and donations, and this type of thing. We've been searching to have another fundraiser in addition to the pancake breakfast silent auction. And I don't know where I got the idea, but I came up with an idea of a motorcycle ride. And it's beginning to be a little overwhelming, but I think it can be accomplished with the help of these people. And I would like to have it. I've been talking with Andy. He found a location for us to have it in the soccer fields on August the 3rd with a rain date of August the 10th. And I'm willing to answer any questions that you might have. We don't have an official name for it yet. We have a lot of ideas, but we have not been able, we needed to get a date and a location before we could work out the specifics.
You sure Billy Walker's gonna help you much?
Sure hope so.
I bet it will. Any questions of her before we? I would ask one question. Motorcycles beg for insurance of some kind. What?
Yes, sir. And that is something that Bill is looking into us for. We do have, the board has insurance, and we have contacted the people who currently insure us, and they are working on a separate policy for this ride. Steve has also contacted a local agent who has given us a quote.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
we will have a policy for this ride.
Okay.
We're looking at, I believe, $1 million to $2 million policy.
Okay.
Okay. And Andy, did you have some things you wanted to?
Hold on just a second, Andy. Mr. Bowler?
Could you explain a little bit, we're not talking about riding through the park, that's
No.
a place that you'll leave from. Are we looking at closing any roads down?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. What we want to do, and Steve has been in contact with the Sumner County Sheriff's Department. He's also been in contact with the Hendersonville Police Department. We're either having it start and stop at the soccer location, or we're looking at potentially having it start at the Imperial Square parking area that's owned by the Church of Christ, and we've talked to them. They will allow us to use it, but we will have to probably have porta potties. So that's when we started looking to somewhere that had bathroom facilities, and I approached Mr. Gilly about that. We may have it start at Imperial Square and end at the park, or we may have it start and stop at the park. Sumner County Sheriff's Department, it is our plan, and they are on board to actually direct and ride with them. They will, and we're going to have the ride, Steve and the Sumner County Sheriff's Department will map out the ride, and it'll be, I don't know how many miles, approximately a 2-hour ride through Sumner County.
Yes, ma'am. I think you'll probably ask the question I'm going to. Go ahead, though.
I don't know. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, two things. Are we comfortable with either or starting at one place and ending another, is that a problem? Number
No,
one.
sir. We're comfortable with whatever plan is.
Okay,
We've
and
discussed
second
all
off,
the
are we
various-
comfortable enough with the insurance to vote on it?
Yes, sir, I think so.
Okay.
My question to the board would be this organization, I don't know how familiar you all are with it, but I am very comfortable that every penny that they raise is going to go back into the Meals on Wheels and spent in our community. Y'all can do what you want. My suggestion would be that we make a motion to probably waive any fees that we have typical of events, so that we can give them every dollar we can.
Thank you. You have a question, Mr. Perry? You were prone and ready on that button. I was just watching there.
I'm good. You guys have answered it. It's good. I like where you're talking about starting in the park. I like it back there. I know that's where you start the police motorcycle ride. They have all that back there too, so them guys will be set up for that, so.
Be good. Thank you, sir. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a
Mr.
motion.
Perry?
All right.
Oh,
Bubba,
I'm sorry.
Bubba, go.
Mr. Perry? Your motion would be to, okay? then?
Yes, sir.
All right. Second motion?
I'll make a motion that he amend his, to include waiving all fees for this group.
You want
Done.
to amend your motion?
Yes,
Mr.
sir. I'm
Perry?
wrong in.
All right, I second.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Thank you. I've got a motion and second. Mr. Frank, any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good luck, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Sorry you having to deal with Billy,
And
but that's
does
okay.
anybody want any of these brochures about our program?
I'll take one.
I love one.
Love you, Billy. All right, next. Honor the Game Sportsmanship Program, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To start off, I got to give a lot of the credit to Tom Golden. I got Tom here in the audience tonight. I'm going to have him come up and speak a little bit. He approached us probably back in January or February with the idea of a new sportsmanship program for all of our leagues in the park. And a lot of what you see in this packet, Tom put a lot of work into and developed. Just kind of give you a brief rundown of kind of what the plan would be and how it would look like, and I'm going to have him come up and talk a little bit more in depth about it. We would obviously look for the involvement of the leagues and have them help administer and get their coaches and refs, umpires involved with this from a game to game, week to week, month to month part of it, and honoring and recognizing kids that go above and beyond and demonstrate sportsmanship on the field. We would also look for the leagues to provide their sportsmen of the year, and they would submit to the Parks Department a list of any player that did anything throughout the season, and the Parks Department is willing to recognize them through our Facebook, through our social media. We want to honor them in the paper, give them a sportsmanship T-shirt, and then from there, we'd like to form a committee, and I'd like to propose that the committee is made up of 2 people from our staff, myself and Keith, 2 people from your board, and then Tom. And then we would have an annual award program at the either at the Wall of Fame on the years we had the Wall of Fame, or at the January Parks Board when all of our leagues are present. And the committee would basically go through all the submissions through all the leagues from the year and pick out 1, 2, 3, just a few of the top sportsmen of the year. So, someone that demonstrated they went above and beyond and expressed themselves and above the rest of the kids in our leagues. So with that, we're proposing to have the annual award named the Jameson Wharton Sportsmanship Award. Some of you may know who Jameson is, and a lot of you may not, and I think I'd like to take this time while we're on TV to kind of talk about Jameson. Jameson, at the age of 10, started the event Football for the Cure at Drakes Creek Park due to his desire to help people, with all proceeds going towards cancer research. 2018, Jameson held the 4th annual Football for the Cure, which raised over $1,200, along with the help of 25 of his teammates. Jamison is looking forward to his 5th event in 2019 and hopes to increase the proceeds and awareness to his event. Jamison is a shining star among our youth of Hendersonville and is an example of what building character, community, and sportsmanship is all about. The hopes of Honor the Game sportsmanship program, along with the Jamison Wharton Sportsmanship Award, is to discover 100 more Jamisons within our parks. So, with that said, I'd like to invite Tom up and just kind of talk a little bit more about kind of his research and what all he did to come up with this plan.
State your name, sir.
Great, no problem. My name's Dr. Tom Golden, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone on the board. So I've been a coach, actually exclusively here in Hendersonville for about 6 years, and it struck me that I loved coaching young people, and one of the things that I always recognized was that at the end of the season, we kind of knew how to honor the All-Stars, and All-Star teams are fantastic and absolutely necessary, and they allow for wonderful opportunities for young people. But I often found myself having a whole other All-Star team of young people who played the game the right way, who were always respectful of umpires. And anybody who's been around youth sports know the kind of players that I'm talking about. And those kind of individuals and coaching those kind of individuals always made me want to coach more. And I wanted to be able to think through a way that we can start to stand behind those young people, be able to promote those kind of young people, and sort of state publicly what we try to teach through the leagues and through a variety of different things within Hendersonville parks. So I don't know if you're familiar, but across the country, about 70% of young people who play youth sports will be completely out of any youth sports activity by the time they're 13. So 70%. So right after this, I'm going to be going over to Drake's Creek and coaching a team of 10 kids. I mean, by that measure, about only 3 of them are going to be continuing to play into middle school. And when they do research about why that is, the top number one reason that kids say that they stop playing is that it's no longer fun. We tend to think, okay, it's 13, maybe they're not that good, or maybe they didn't like the coach. It's not. It's not fun anymore. And of course, you go back to the very beginning, the number one reason that kids say that they wanted to play sports to begin with was it's fun. And so this sort of puts behind that. So it really kind of does 3 things. While the program is completely managed within the Parks program, I would see my role and other volunteers to really bring the community to fully support that and make it more of a ground-up sort of embracing of the program. Whether that's with local businesses and being able to provide support, you'll see in the plan materials that maybe are provided within each of the leagues, like say bracelets or other types of hair things to hold back ponytails, can be supported by a local business who having talked to a few just to sort them out and just to say, hey, what would you think? Would love to be able to promote something like that. And the notion of honor the game being a phrase that people can get behind and looks good on a shirt. I mean, that's the idea. Being able to provide that public support, being able to provide educational materials that goes out to families as well as coaches, as well as really focusing on how you can promote a culture that promotes the 4 values that we've identified of respect for the game, a focus on a heart and competing with good intent, not a win at all costs sort of approach. A focus on skills and building skills, both through success but also through failure being an important aspect of it, and play, just valuing the fun of it all. We think these are values to stand behind. These are the reason why people come to Hendersonville to play. I could list a whole list of families who come to Hendersonville specifically because of that culture. And my dad always said, the best time to sort of fix a roof is when it's sunny. And so we have a good environment, I think, within Hendersonville Parks. We think this will be an opportunity to continue to promote that culture. So I thank you for your consideration, and if you have any questions, I'm willing to be here. So thank you.
Questions? No questions? I will entertain a motion to institute this program as stated on the sheets here. Mr. Bennett, second. Mr. Head. Any more discussion?
Yes, sir. A couple of things while the
Sure, go
motion's
ahead.
on the floor. First of all, thank you, Dr. Golden, and for bringing this up. As a lifelong member of this community, growing up as a kid in the park system, as a former coach at multiple leagues and multiple levels, even a couple of years stint as a referee and an official in our parks department, we need to take a stand positively on behalf of our kids in our parks. As adults, coaches, most of which, if not all, are volunteer parents, we got to be the better example. And no matter what happens at the ball field tonight, the sun's coming up tomorrow, win or lose. And the number of officials that are leaving the game because of fan behavior, coach behavior. I watch a lot of youth sports, and the showboating and this stuff has just completely crushed the spirit of some of the games. So I appreciate that. And personally, whether I'm on the board or not, I'm going to get behind this because it's desperately needed. We've sanitized sportsmanship into, well, everybody just gets a trophy at the end of it, and that's not what it's about. It's about teaching character. It's about teaching the fact that we've all come to the Parks Department and had experience where the game is the best teacher. And we could sit here and talk cliches for another 30 minutes, but I appreciate that, and I hope that our Parks Board and our coaches and future officials in all groups that are underneath the Parks umbrella will adopt this and make it part of their, just a part of their fabric when they implement teams every season. So thank you.
Who drew this up?
The document was collaborative between Dallas and myself, but some of the, between Dallas and myself, sorry.
In adding to what Mr. Frank said, I think if you had done nothing else but the last two lines there, I will do my very best to make the sport fun for everyone who participates, and I will ask all family members and fans to be fair and inclusive by treating other players, coaches, fans, and officials with high regard and respect. And you couldn't put it any better than that. Yeah. So if you did it, congratulations. If Dallas did it, it's his job. So
it's meant to be it's stating our position and saying this is what we promote and this is what our community is about, and saying this is a pledge that everybody signs, coaches and everyone, but it's more than that. It's being able to provide the kind of materials and support. Again, my first coaching gig, it was I made sure to not do all the things to mess up, but to have somebody saying, hey, look, this is how you actually can teach a young person how to deal with striking out 3 times in a game. No one tells you how to do that. So that's a part of this as well. But the big thing here is that it's controlled within the parks, but that it has to be community driven and it has to be volunteer driven. The leagues, I think Dallas has done a great job making this to where the leagues are buying in and promoting this. The focus is trying to start small and then just continue to build it as we go. So,
thank you. Any more discussion? We've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, sir. By the way, after the meeting, I've got a little rash over here on my side. Could you take a look?
It's not that kind of doctor. Educational psychology. As my son likes to joke, I'm a doctor, but not one who helps people. So,
story of my life.
Real quick, I think one thing we will need to also vote on with this is the committee. So that would, based on how I proposed it, Keith, myself, and if you would also vote 2 of you all to be part of the committee, and then I'd like to see Tom in there as well if you all see fit.
Show of hands of anybody that wants to be on this committee. Mr. Frank?
Yeah, I would say Mr. Frank and
Mr. Bowler?
Mr. Bowler.
That take care of that?
And Tom.
I don't trust either one of them.
And Tom.
And Tom, yeah, and Tom.
All right.
He's got a game to coach. Get out there.
Beg pardon? Can we expand it to that?
I don't see why not.
Let's just have Mr. Head.
Yeah.
And in that vein, I thought, Mr. Frank, you seem to have a real feel for it, so you're gonna do it, right? Mr. Head?
Some exactly what Mr. Franks is talking about, I see every day and have to step in and
We got it. Now, show of hands, who's gonna do it? 2, 3? No, okay, 3. 3 it is, sir.
Thank you.
And golly, I'm just sitting here thinking why this has not come up before. Years ago, I started a league years ago for that very reason. Not that it means anything. I mean, I didn't do anything other than watch kids play, but that was, at that point in time, was the reason, to make sure that the kids had fun. And what Mr. Frank said is, I get down there a couple of Saturdays a month and watch, and we're just having, kids not having fun sometimes. So I would have a bloodletting and make everybody sign one. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate that. No problem.
Dallas, I think it's, and sir, I think it's a great idea. Long past due, I think leagues have tried to do this in their own form or fashion at times by signing a coaching pledge or a parent pledge, but now we're talking about a program that's going to be park-wide for every program. And, personally, if I had to make a motion tonight, it's not an optional program. Your league has to participate in it if you want to be in the park, is kind of how I feel about it. Because there's way too much, and 9 times out of 10, it's a coach and occasionally a parent.
And I believe I would accept that motion to do that very thing.
Well, I'll make that motion.
Second, Mr. Perry, more discussion on it?
I was going to say we have a league agreement coming up here on the agenda here in a little bit, and that could be possibly part of that and add into the language of the league agreement.
Very
Okay.
nice. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Good gracious, that's good. I like that. That's good. All right, faculty use agreement for athletic leagues. That would be
I guess that's me again,
Mr.
huh?
Long, I
Mr.
think.
Chairman, I'm just going to clarify real quick.
Sure.
For our record, that past motion was to add the sportsmanship program to the facility use agreement that we're about to discuss.
Correct.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
And who was the motion in the second?
I made the motion.
Head, Perry.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Mr. Long, faculty use agreement for athletic league, sir.
Thank you. This is a facility use agreement that we would look to have all of our leagues that operate in our park sign each season. So for those leagues that play in the spring and in the fall, we would look to have this come to our department January 1 for the spring season, and then July 1 for the fall season. And it's just a basic agreement, kind of make sure that the leagues are abiding by the policies and the rules that the parks has, that the Parks Board has agreed to, and the city. This is kind of a standard agreement that a lot of cities have throughout the country. Goodlettsville has one just very similar to this, and something I did when I was there at Goodlettsville. And just to make sure that that they're operating within our bylaws and our rules. Additionally, there's like a checklist of things that they would have to, it's kind of give them a map of everything that they need to take care of throughout the season as well. Whether that's schedules, financial statements, proof of insurance, player fees, maintenance fees, concessions, 7.5% of concession sales. So that's kind of like a map and agreeing to providing all that information as well. So I think that's all I got.
Question?
Yes, I have to. You said doing it during January and then coming back and doing it in July. Is that correct?
That's correct. For those leagues that have 2 seasons. And within
Well,
the year.
the only question and concern I would have about that one is you have concessions that start with Septem, for example. You're asking to change that twice a year, or are you just asking, could that just not be a yearly agreement every year instead of doing it twice a year would be my thing. And then the second thing, and jump in on this, Jeremy, because I know you're a big factor in this one. The disposing grease in a timely, proper manner. That, maybe off TV or off the record or at the office one day, we probably need to discuss how that's going to be handled, because we have issues. Unfortunately, the guys have picked up the stuff and it hasn't been done right in some other stands. So, personally, if we're going to allow Friars to continue to be in the concession stand, which is a big revenue, by the way, huge part of the revenue for concessions, we probably need, as a parks, to establish a grease bin at the dumpster area.
That's a great idea.
So there is a nominal cost in that, and quite frankly, a lot of times you can get paid, you make money on that, if the price of grease is right, because that's what they make makeup with, believe it or not. So I would, at some point, that would be something that I think that we could do as a city, as a favor to the civic groups, is put that dumpster there, and then there are things that you could just carry the grease to, dispose of. It could be properly disposed of instead of thrown in the dumpster or whatever else happens. So I think that's something that we need to look at as a group, to help the leagues out.
I'm just proud to be in the same room with you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing I would say on here is the financial information. I know some of the leagues, we had a league representative come here a couple of meetings ago, and their financials fell on different areas, like in August or September. And I would say we probably just need to get with that leagues individually and see when their best time to submit the financial statements would be, preferably after the season ends, and we can see what revenue they have and go from there.
Yeah, I think Tennessee United's one of the ones that is the odd guys with the financial statements, and we've always worked with them, and we will continue to do that. And then with, I guess that was a few months ago, we passed that leagues would submit financials January Parks Board and July Parks Board. So, and that's kind of why we were going to do this agreement with those 2 months, is along with their financial statements, have these agreements submitted with their financial statements as well. And one other thing while I'm talking, we did send this to all the leagues. This agreement is very similar to what Tennessee United's already doing at Goodlettsville, but I think they're the only league in our park that has done something like this. But we sent this to all the presidents of the leagues. Didn't hear any feedback, negative or positive. So we did send that to them last week, though.
Mr. Head? Oh, you do? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just going back to what Mr. Head said, do you feel like we need to do a separate concessions agreement?
Years ago,
Mhm.
and I don't know where it kind of fell through, used to be that we did the concessions on 5-year increments.
Yeah. I remember that.
So at some point, I don't know if that went away or what happened to it, or it just, I really don't know. So I would think that the concessions ought to operate yearly, January 1 to December 31, and as long as they do everything that they should, then they get to renew the next year. Or in this agreement, maybe it specifies that the concessions is for a year. I mean, that would be my only thing, unless you want to do a complete separate agreement, which we have had in the past.
I'm kind of thinking it may be good to have a complete separate agreement,
too.
just in case at some point a league might come in that wants to run the league but not the concessions for that part of the park.
Well, you have that going on now. I mean,
Correct.
obviously.
Yes.
I mean, because, obviously in the summer league, Civitan runs the concessions,
Right.
and y'all run, so I would think you would probably want a separate agreement for that.
So I
then.
think whoever makes the motion would be to approve this, adding the sportsmanship program, and also with us separating out the concession agreement and maybe bringing that back to the next Parks Board meeting as a separate, that's a long motion, but
I'll make the motion that we approve this agreement and add the sportsman ownership agreement to it, and that we take the concession stand out of it and bring back a concession stand agreement at the next meeting. I think that covers it.
Very nicely put. I've got a motion and a second from Mr. White. Golly, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I've been practicing.
I'm just gonna sit back and listen here for a minute. They're smart guys down there. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
who was
All
the second?
opposed?
Who was the second?
Nathan.
Thank you. I got confused on the makeup, but threw us off down here.
Shoot, I'm gonna go home and brag to my wife, and I ain't done a thing. I'll tell you that. No, actually, I do appreciate that, because you and Mr. White, everybody that have been involved in this know the ins and outs of the darn thing. That's why I think the Parks Board has done so well, and that's why I've always bragged on you guys, myself excluded, but I appreciate your input, so thank you. Inline hockey site plan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's nothing in your packet on this. I just wanted to give you kind of an update on where we are. A lot of people have asked what's going on with inline hockey. We will have at the next BOMA budget workshop is the 21st of May. We're currently working with the inline hockey group to create a site plan to move the rinks to Volunteer Park at Arrowhead.
Oh, yeah, good.
In the middle section between our fields now and where the horse barn is. That area is not in the floodplain. There's some things funding-wise that we have to get lined up. Hopefully, if we can do it right and structure it right, we may be able even to cover them, which would allow us to bring in a lot of revenue from events and give the league something they never had before. There's other things involved with that, but our goal is to have a plan with a cost and a timeline to present not only to you all at the next Parks Board meeting, but also to BOMA during their budget process. We've met individually with nearly every alderman at this point to try to get feedback and buy-in, and clearly the insurance company will not pay for us to build them back there, and should they be destroyed again. They have paid for us, they have paid us what it would cost to build them back as is right there, but it's going to cost way more than that to move them. So we're going to have to work on some things there, but the inline group has been great to work with, and I think everybody in town knows we've got to move them and then also address the playground. If we move the rinks, we can then address flooding at the playground with some kind of berm, retention, something. So I just want to give an update on that, because I know a lot of people have asked.
In that vein of thought, I don't know how many have been to Franklin's inline facility. Have any of y'all been in to see that? It's spectacular. And if while we're doing that, moving that thing, I would sure love to get some, maybe a more bleachers or more, because I have a feeling if we do that, make it attractive, you're going to have a lot more people. And if you do that, that's what's going to be I think that'll be a precursor to better things to come. So
Yes, sir. If
you could kind of think about that, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, you got it.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Soccer committee discussion, Mr. Gilly?
In your packet, there is about 15 pages of documentation from where we, as a staff, spent nearly 5 months. Me personally, I went back today and looked. When I was still an alderman, Mayor Clary asked me to try to work with both soccer groups to better utilize the field space, to try to get people working together, to address budget issues with participation from groups with light projects, which at that time I did as an alderman. As a parks director, I saw a need for us to work together with soccer groups when I started, because I saw what our staff was going through, having to deal with scheduling from two different groups, having to attend board meetings of two different groups, having to communicate with point people from different groups, and then me personally having to communicate with all those different people. So we felt like the need for a committee that could connect both groups together and provide insight and get people working together was a great idea. We presented that to you all at a workshop, not something to vote on. We had members of both HSC and Tennessee United and our staff work for about 4 months and meet multiple times to come up with guidelines that a committee would be responsible for. Our goal was to utilize the Tennessee United staff to provide player development to the rec program that they are doing in other cities, and I have to say it's worked out so well in other cities. I've read the feedback myself and talked to the people in rec programs, and it's just not something we're taking advantage of. Our other goal was to provide one point of contact with referees, one point of contact for scheduling games and practices, and also to implement a capital improvement plan that both clubs could get behind. Instead of, right now, the case is, if we have a project in the park, as all the clubs that use the park help tremendously. With soccer, it's kind of different because you have two clubs, so I have to go to both of them separately, and it's always like, well, what are they going to do? We'll do this if they do that, or they did that, so that's what we're going to do. To be very blunt, those people from both clubs worked together and created what we thought was a great document. One board approved it, and the other board said that they could not approve it, that they liked the committee, they liked the ideas, but they liked it without having Parks Department and Parks Board input. And me personally, I'm not willing to do it without our input. I'm not going to do it. You can read through the emails, you can read through the communication, you can ask any questions you want. I'm not here to bash people, I'm not here to say anything's good, bad, or indifferent. All I can tell you is that 6 people, two from both boards and 2 people on our staff had what we thought was a great plan. And unfortunately, that's not going to work at this time.
The other board that didn't want to do it with the park staff and whatnot, did they give a reason for that?
They said that their bylaws do not allow oversight from the Parks Board, or any oversight.
Mr. Bolt, do you have anything to add to this, sir?
I don't know that I'm privy on all the latest communications here, so I'm not sure where I would comment necessarily. I'm in agreement with Andy in as much as, you know, I've been a rec coach and rec parent and select coach and select parent, and board member at HSC, a board member, president at Tennessee United, 8 years as president of Tennessee State Soccer Association, so I've seen it in every possible situation. I may not know anything, but I've certainly experienced everything. So I would concur that taking advantage of Tennessee United makes all the sense in the world, and that's clearly not being done. I think it comes down now to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but the city's going to have to determine what the next step is, correct?
At this point, I mean, we've got to decide if we want to leave things as they are, if we just want to let 2 people coexist, if we want to let one group expand what they're doing in terms of recreational offerings that is not quite travel, if we want to do something in our department. I'm not that hard to communicate with, and I'm certainly not that hard to get in touch with and find. And I will tell you, it's been frustrating, the level of communication, even as much as late as this afternoon. And I'm not going to give up on it, because here's what I believe. I'm planning on being here for a while, and boards and leagues have turnover. And I want to get it what's right for this, not just soccer, but I want to do what's right for every league that we deal with, and put things in place that are the good for long term, not just for today. So that's probably where I need to leave all that.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
So, you know, in a perfect world, or maybe a normal world, there's an automatic transition from recreational, any sport, to the next level. Some kids won't want to do that, maybe not qualify for that, and that's good. There should be an avenue for them still in the recreational. But if they so desire, there should be a natural transition, and there should be a relationship between those two organizations. And they really shouldn't coexist independently of each other. There should be a relationship clearly between the two of them, and I think that's Andy's frustration and mine also. You know, it's not unlike, you know, they have different agendas to some extent and whatnot. I mean, I understand that, but maybe the Parks Board, too, will have to give some input with Andy privately or publicly on what they would consider support towards the next step, if any.
In the business world, when which I've been in a long time, when there's differences of opinion between two different parties, that there's I won't call it an arbitrator, but somebody that sits down with both sides. And I know you've probably tried that. I don't know that, but I would suggest, again, arbitrator is a strong word, but I mean, normal grown-up people dealing with a kid's sport should be able to figure something out. And there's only way, and the way not to figure it out is have one guy in one room, one guy in another. So it would make sense to me that it would be, I don't know if you can make it mandatory for both sides to show up, but and just let them fight it out.
Well,
that makes sense? I mean,
to be quite honest, I kind of felt like 2 years ago when the mayor kind of asked me to kind of look at this, he knew that I was involved with the parks as an alderman and in leagues and things. I felt like that was kind of my role. And then as I came on here and saw from different sides what was going on, I felt like that was incumbent upon me to kind of continue that down that path, to kind of see what we could do to get everybody on the same page. And I mean, to be honest, there's not many times when you're going to hear me say that I've failed at something, but I right now I have failed at this, but I'm not going to give up on it. If nothing else, I want every board member, player, parent, whatever, they know that we care about what's going on in our leagues, and we're going to not just sit back and just kind of say like, hey, everything's just great all the time. You should always be trying to get better.
yes, sir.
Always. There's always, if you're not, then, I mean, direct quote from Michael Jordan, why do you work so hard? Because somebody out there is better than me. And he was pretty good. So why would we not want to get better? But we'll keep working on it. And hopefully I will have something, you know, I might have another report next month to give you.
After seeing what you've done, I've got the utmost faith that you will do that. I appreciate your work so far, and you know, if both sides are listening tonight, I'd say, you know, sit down and talk about it. My dad used to say that all the time, talk about it and get it settled for supper. So I believe that's what they ought to do. Any more questions?
Just one quick one.
Yes, sir.
Andy, is there a risk that Now, I don't know if we want to direct that to Tennessee United here, but run the risk of Tennessee United starting their own program or dipping down into those age groups? How's that going to be?
Sorry.
I mean, Tennessee United already has an academy program that's not the travel. I could envision them wanting to expand that into younger age groups. The State Soccer Association, I don't want to sound like an expert, but I do know that the State Soccer Association now has a pilot program called Rec Plus that we currently don't offer as a city. So that could be something that we see coming forward. I don't know.
It seems to me like it's going to be something you're going to have to continue to work on, because
That's why we get the semi-big bucks.
big bucks, that's right. Mr. Perry, you have any thoughts on that?
Not really. I'm just going to sit back here and listen because I'm not exactly sure what's going on between the two clubs.
And that would be a good thing to provide, I think, Andy, so that we understand what they're doing.
Well, maybe we'll just have them both here next time.
I think that would be perfect. That's what I was shooting at.
We can sure do it.
You think we could do that?
I think we can probably do it, hopefully.
Is kidnapping in the, well, never mind that. Okay. All righty. Any more questions?
I have a question that's reference to the bylaws of the one club that said that it did not allow oversight by the entity whose facility they're using, and how that could be worded to make any sense whatsoever. And have you seen that part of the bylaws that says they can't or will not accept oversight?
I personally cannot, I'm no legal expert. We have their bylaws. I cannot necessarily find where it says that directly, but I will be happy to have our city attorney read their bylaws and see if he can find it. And I'm sure that they have legal counsel that might could point out to us where it states that in their bylaws. If you'd like me to do that by next month, I'll be happy to do that.
No, I think Bud was exactly right. I think they need to both show up and explain what's going on. I think it would, for us and for everybody, so. Any more questions?
I don't have a question, I just got a statement. I've been around a long time. I've seen all kinds of things go wrong in the parks, and people have been given many chances by so-called Parks Board, Parks Directors, by the city, whatever you want to call it. But really, in a nutshell, when you drive into that park over there, it says City of Hendersonville, run by the Parks Department of Hendersonville. They're the ones that run the park. They're the ones who put hundreds of thousands of dollars beyond what these leagues put in to get these fields ready every day, every part of the week. Yes, we put money back in the park as civic groups, and we should. But there's no bylaws or any group that is above the city of Hendersonville. You don't have a right to play in that park just because you live in Hendersonville. You don't have a right to play in that park just because you have a league. You don't run your league right, you're not willing to cooperate, you're not willing to do the things that it needs to take to run that park, league in that park correctly, you need to be out. Plain and simple. I've seen groups come up here and almost be voted out before by this board over the years, and they were given second chances. And these guys need to come up here and explain what's going on and why they can't sit in a room and get together and put some things on a chalkboard and say, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this and do this. And then they compromise and they take things from each list and they make the place better. If you go to bed with the sun down and have problems and you let the sun set on your problems, you got a problem. You don't go to bed until your problem's solved. You make the place better. You get better every day. And I'm tired of hearing it. They don't want to play, then, I'd make a motion, we just kick them out. I mean, that's plain and simple. You want to play in the parks, then come
Abide by the rules.
abide by the rules that are given. Nobody's above reproach, not a single group, not a single individual. You get kicked out of a game, you automatically have to serve a suspension. It's not a league rule, that's a parks rule. So nobody's above it. I just think, it's gone on long enough and the pettiness needs to stop or something needs to be done. I mean,
Yes, sir.
I'm all for getting in the middle of it and listening to them and bringing everybody together because I just want everybody to be better and I want everybody to get along and I want the programs are great programs. They put tons of money in the parks. It's a beautiful facility back there. You can't, diss anything that they have done. But you got a disagreement and you got to get over it. And if you can't get over it, then maybe it's time that somebody get over it for you.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
And I think, as he's saying, I think the both of them, at least representatives on both sides should be here to have answers like that. And that's what I was saying about grown-up people. I'll be able to do grown-up things. And
I want to make sure everybody knows too that they both, everybody involved in all these discussions was made aware that I was going to give this update tonight.
Okay.
But we will make sure that we
get them here.
request their presence.
Thank you, sir. I would strongly suggest that, as a matter of fact. Any more comments? Thank you, Ms. Ted. Parks Board, Parks Budget Discussion. Mr. Gilly, you've been doing a lot tonight.
Yes, sir. This will be it, though.
It's all right.
The last few pages of your packet, I would really just call your attention to pages 52 through 56.
Yeah.
Those are the budget requests that were made, and then shows the mayor's adjustments that were made. Part of your task by city ordinance is to recommend approval of the parks budget. They've had the first budget workshop. I don't even know that everybody knows that's part of your task, but it is.
I did not.
You're not allowed, you're kind of in a great spot. You can recommend all you want, but you don't get to tell them how to pay for it. So, this shows on 52 through 56 the things that we requested as a department, some of the things that the mayor added, some of the things the mayor adjusted. They've had one budget workshop. There's been no votes. Your task would be to recommend where it says amended budget request on page 52, and then these totals on page 53 through 56, unless there's things that you think you would like as a Parks Board to recommend or added or subtracted. I will just tell you that the two things as a department that we asked for that are not currently in here are a continuation of the LED light replacement program. We asked for $391,000 this year towards that. Last year was $410,000. We got $20,000 from Tennessee United. This year, both soccer clubs have committed $25,000 each to that, which we're grateful for. And we also, knowing going in that Civitan puts about $50,000 to $60,000, $70,000 a year into other projects that keeps us from having to budget for those things. That's my rationale for not having on paper a commitment from Civitan towards lights specifically, because if we do that, we would lose out on field renovations and other projects that are highly needed as well. The other thing that is taken out that we feel like we desperately need in terms of maintenance is a tractor to help us mow the new Durham Farm property and the Beatty Farm property. When I go to present my budget to the Public Works Committee tomorrow night, I will tell you that I will ask them to please support putting that back in, both these things. They may or may not do it. I can't control that. 7 votes, the board, mayor, and alderman can control that. But all we can do is just make clear that this is what we feel is needed. The LED replacement, we've had 3, to be blunt, we've had 3 fires in the back soccer park with our lights. We can say that's from lightning strikes. We can say it's from overuse. We can say they're old. You can say whatever you want. We're starting to lose more bulbs more frequently on all our other fields. Every time they come out and replace them, by the time they get home, a new one's out somewhere. So by force or by choice, lights are going to have to be replaced all over our whole park system at some point. And I know that the argument is made, well, we got to pave roads. Well, I'm going to be honest with you, I look at infrastructure as everything in the city, not just roads. And I guarantee you more people use that park than use some of these little cul-de-sacs that get paved. So that's my spiel on that. But you all, part of the ordinance does say that the Parks Board is supposed to recommend approval of the parks budget. So I wanted to make sure you all had that opportunity tonight. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it about anything budget related. I mean, I want to say that the mayor has listened and helped us out in many, many areas. Increased our education amount, increased our travel and training amount, which I think is important for our staff for multiple reasons. He increased our salary line item that helps Miss Hamlin with her summer camp programs, because we're trying to make some adjustments to get them higher salaries to get more competitive there. So really and truly, you know, we're sitting here, would we like to be 2.3 million more where we would be on the national average for a city our size? Yes, we would like that, but we're not going to get 2.3 more million. But lights and a tractor is two things that we would request. But like I said, we can recommend approval all we want. It takes 7 votes to get it.
I got a question. So can we make recommendation to approve it with a recommendation for something else, such as, for example, I talked to you about this just in general a little bit last time, but like make it formal request that all the concession stand revenue, the 7.5% that is going currently into just the general fund, be allocated specifically for a line item such as the lights.
You can recommend whatever you want.
Well, then I'll make a motion that we approve this budget with the recommendation that we take all the 7.5% concession revenue that comes in throughout the year from all the concession stands and make it for a specific line item for lights. Just off the top of my head, that would probably be another $30,000 or $40,000 easy.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Mr. White? Any more discussion on that and any of the other things in here? Yes, sir.
Director Gilling, for the LED project, how many have we replaced so far, and how many more do we have to go forward from here? My son played on a soccer field that did not have lights or got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the lights were out, and we had to cut the game short, and it was quite dangerous, honestly.
Right.
So
This year we replaced the football lights and we replaced Field 1, and we added 2 poles at Volunteer Park at Arrowhead. And then we have a price we have a plan. It's not really a plan because that would involve knowing what you have funded, but I have a price for every field, every light, from tennis to hockey to athletic fields, to even going so far as to put like decorative street lighting in Saunders Ferry Park along the greenway there. So I can give you a price that each one of those costs. The plan would be, if we can, I'm just looking at last year we got 410. So I'm kind of thinking if we could ask for 400 for the next 7 years to 10 years, hopefully, by that point we would have everything replaced. And then you wouldn't have to worry about it for 30 years at least, probably longer. So if I came up with 391 because we went with soccer fields, a baseball field, and a softball field to replace, not add new. That was to replace. I feel like the 2 poles that we have at Volunteer are definitely adequate for what it's being used for right now, which is mostly practices. There's not a lot of night games out there. But you could even play night games at the younger level. I would not play a high school game with 2 poles, but it's plenty bright to play youth games. That's kind of where we're coming from. Okay. And we have what the pricing the company gave us it has a low-end price and a high-end price. So the high end is if we did it 5 years from now, what it would cost to do such a thing. And just, I don't know. To me, I feel like that's very important. I mean, we talk all the time in the city about being behind and what can we do to plan for the future. To me, this is planning. This is an example of planning and being proactive,
Agreed.
which we have not always done. We're more reactive than proactive a lot of times.
I have one thing that, while we're talking about lights, and this doesn't pertain to any fields, but it does almost directly affect what's going on over there. The parking lot between the football fields, Field 1 and Field 3, the softball complex. When there are events going on out there and the fields are lit up, that parking lot is okay. But if there hasn't been an event in there, and I know there are times where there are certain groups that meet there and go to away games, and then they come back, and if there's nothing going on in the park, that parking lot is extremely dark. It's almost to the point of I don't feel it safe. If my wife is dropping my son off to pick his truck up, I'm not comfortable with it because of how dark it is over there if nothing is going on. Some street lights or something that...
One of the things with the new lights on the football field and Field 1 was additional lights shining on the parking lot. So we'll see how that works. I totally agree, and I noticed it as we were without lights. So we've been, the last couple of weeks, we've been leaving Field 2 and 3 on later just to make up for that. So we'll see how this light that's on the new poles does as far as lighting up the parking lot, but there's several areas of our parks that need more adequate parking lot security lighting, without question. Memorial Park, for example, another one. But we'll see if this is good enough, basically is what I'm telling you. The other night I was out there and I couldn't really tell because 2 and 3 were still on when I turned on the new lights. So we'll have to wait till we get those off and then shine it on there and see what we can do.
Is there not some way, knowing nothing about electricity, is there not some way to just get, in what Mr. White's talking about, is there not some way to get something like a street light or something out there? I mean.
Sure, you can, NES will do anything.
That's what I'm saying.
They'll come in and do all kinds of lights. You have to have money to pay for it.
That makes sense, Mr. White? I think there's been many times when I was growing up, you had to go somewhere where they had the street lights, so that was fine. So.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All right, I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
What is the motion and the second?
Motion was Mr. Head.
The motion was that we approve send the budget as is, but add that we take the 7.5% from all the concession stand revenue and have that put on a line item in the budget to go for lighting for the park, not just into the general.
It'll be hard to send it as is if you don't recommend that they put the lighting project in the budget.
Put it in the budget.
Yeah, I recommend.
Put the lighting project in the budget,
Mhm.
and then to help additionally fund that, and I'm sure that Dallas or Keith could go back and look at what the average concession stand fees were paid the last several years.
It's between 20 and 30,000.
It's still a chunk of change, so maybe they'll be willing to at least match it.
Would you like to recommend that they add a tractor back to the asset line item as well?
Sure, I'll make that motion as well.
Yeah, an additional or an addendum? We've
As
already
an
voted
addendum,
on that one.
as an
so-
addendum.
Yeah. What was your motion?
The motion was to approve the budget, put the lighting project back in, to put the 7.5% concession stand revenue as a line item to help pay for the project lighting, and as an addendum, put the tractor back in.
Okay, and so we've already voted on that other one. We need to re-vote on that one then.
Then that's
I got a motion and a second. Mr. White? No more discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Okay, I think that
I think I
makes
got
us
that.
legal, so.
that'll be only Friday night.
All right, special events list, I think that's for our information. Recreation Coordinator, Ms. Hamlin.
Okay, we had our Easter Spring Fling this week. This past week, we had a great turnout. The children seemed to be having a great time. All the departments did a wonderful job on their games, and the Easter Bunny could be seen roaming the halls when he wasn't taking a break to eat carrots. Raptors baseball right now have about 40 registered. We play on Friday nights and Saturday mornings. The season has started. Last year, the White House League came down to play us, and they have been in contact with me this week, and they want to do that again. So I've asked Andrea to kind of get with me, and maybe we can get some sponsors lined up to help make this a big event for them, maybe provide them with food and a goodie bag or something like that, have an announcer announce their names when they're at bat. And I think Mark McDaniel did that last year for us. So if anyone has any ideas or want to help get things donated, let me know. She's actually been texting me while I've been in this meeting, Chrislyn has from White House, and she has given me several dates that she'd like to come down. I think she said they have about 6 to 8 children playing in a range from like 4 to 18. So basically what we'll do is put some of our kids with their team and just have a good old time when they come down here. So we are definitely looking at doing May 11th. She's wanting to know if they can come down this Saturday, so I'll have to see what we can work out real quickly for that one. But I'd like to make May 11th be a real special day and make it, more like all-star season type game, something like that. Raptors kickball registration begins May 6th and runs through May 29th. The season will run from the end of May through June. The cost is $25. They will play at Drakes Creek or Veterans Park. If they already play baseball with the Raptors, they will not have to register for kickball. We'll just transfer them over to the kickball league if they wish to play. Summer programs, the camps for the 5 to 12-year-olds will run from June 10th through July 19th. The campers bring their own lunch, drinks, and snacks. Field trips are taken and cost are extra. They will meet at Merrill Hyde Magnet School again this year. Registration is still open, so they can go to the website and at www.hendersonvilleparks.org and go to summer programs and get registered there. Kids Club is full. We have 5 on the waiting list. Camp workers, I have taken applications through last Thursday. I am getting ready now to start interviewing to see who I have for the positions. The interviews will be held at Whitten Elementary once we get them on the schedule, and I hope to get people hired really soon. And I hope to get the budget passed so that they can get a raise, so that this is more of an enticing job for them to apply for. And that is it. Any questions?
What field are you doing the May 11th event on, the All-Star kind of game?
I think we're on field 3 that day. I'm not 100% sure, but I'd have to look at the schedule.
You want to do what we did last year with the concession stand?
I'd love to.
Count it as done.
Okay. We'll put that on my list.
Thank you, Ms. Hamlin.
Thank you.
Special Events Program Supervisor, Ms. Wise.
All right, past events, we had the Water Warriors event. It was held on Saturday, April 6th at Memorial Park with numerous sponsors in the community. They had 6 teams competing to see whose boat made it to the finish line first. It was a great event that had tons of support and spectatorship. We also had the Music City Cup hockey tournament. This event took place the weekend of April 5th. With only having one operable rink, they were able to have around 15 teams participate. Other events we had going on this past month, let's see, had the GMB tournament, the HHS Invitational Tennis Tournament, Game 7 tournament, and the Easter egg hunt were both canceled. Hopefully they will reschedule for another event. Upcoming events, we have the Old Hickory Lake Tournament, fishing tournament this Saturday. It's the first time they have been here, so I'm looking forward to that. The Sumner Festival, this city event is planned for next Saturday, May 4th at Sanders Ferry Park. We also have the Great Inflatable Race coming up on May 11th at Beatty Farm. As of now, there are around 14,000 people who have registered for this event. 1,400, sorry, 1,400.
Parking? Hey, that's on TV, remember?
But they're expecting closer to 1,600 by the date of this event. Not that it makes that much difference.
Nicely done.
1,400. We also have the ABA fishing tournament that same day as the Inflatable Rays at Sanders Ferry. PPG Porter Paints Fishing Tournament, this event is returning again, and that's on May 15th. And then we also will be having the annual Memorial Day Classic 15K, 5K race on Memorial Day. And just a side note, I am working on the fishing rodeo, which is going to be on June 7th and 8th. I am currently looking for items to use as decoration, so if anybody has anything they would like, if anyone has anything available that they will let me use for this event, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Maybe one of those 14,000 people. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I got a question for you. Is there anything to talk about and announce? Is there anything more on the late May music event on our calendar?
Not that I'm aware of.
That would be a no. Any more questions? Thank you, Ms. Wise. Parks Manager, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Babe Ruth 13, 15-year-old league, that's ongoing. Practices have started. They'll begin games next week. We have 2 teams, got 26 players, and they'll be traveling around, playing other cities, and going to Nashville and White House. 710 baseball, flag football, rec soccer, and Tennessee United, and all their games and practices are ongoing. Working on getting all the rain outs rescheduled from last week. Tennessee United Soccer Club's tournament is this coming weekend. With Moss Wright being closed, they're going to have a lot more games over at our park, and I know a lot of the high schools have helped out as well with providing field space for that. Summer Baseball League is now full. We're working on getting the leagues and schedules going. Practices will begin mid-May and followed by games in early June. Summer men's basketball registration, we're still accepting late registrations through tomorrow, and we're expecting to have around 10 to 12 teams this year. And then a little report from Brandon. Spring tennis lessons begin May 7th, and then the summer lesson registrations begin May 28th. And then I guess last thing I have is with the new approval of the Sportsmanship Award. I'm looking forward to reaching out to Jameson Wharton's mother and to let her know about us recognizing him, and I'd like to bring him up one of the next Parks Board meetings and kind of honor him as kind of the name and give him a little award for being named after him. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Question? Thank you, sir. Mr. Bruce seems to be thin in the skin over there, so I imagine you've got a report from him, don't you?
Report from Mr. Bruce is that kickball is started.
Yes.
Softball is going well. Lacrosse is going fantastic. And we're excited as can be about meeting with some people upcoming to discuss how we can better our basketball league as well.
You made all that up, didn't you?
Nope, that was a good report. We do have maintenance report from Jeremy Granat.
Why is he not on here?
I don't know. We'll have to address that with
I
Miss
thought y'all were
Jenny.
leaving him out.
No, we need to make
Thought I
sure.
was going to get out of this.
Nope.
Pre-emergent was put down on all 49 acres of athletic playing surface in mid-March. This also included our spring fertilization application also. We'll be working on quotes, actually started on it already, for our broadleaf application. So we'll be working on that, getting something put together. DC-8 batting cage, which was a flood-related repair, is ongoing. They started on that last week. Hopefully it'll be done this week. I've got I bought a new net for it also, so we've got a net to put up once they're finished down there. So that'll be nice. That was one of our older batting cages. Hadn't been updated in a long time, so it's going to be a nice remodel. We removed a playground between V1 and V2 at Veterans. It was in really bad shape. It was to the point where somebody was going to get injured, and it was beyond repair. It was due to rusting. That was one of the playgrounds that was a metal playground that was like plasti dipped with rubberized coating. And over time, some of that starts to dry rot, which then lets water in there. and it started to rust, and there just was really nothing we could do. We've been working on it a lot for the last 3 to 4 years, and it was just time for it to come out. And unfortunately, at this time, we didn't have any money in the budget to replace it, but it did need to go. We'll leave that spot open for now and see what the future holds for it. Maybe a playground, maybe a batting cage. So that's kind of still up in the air. But we did get it down, and it was something that needed to happen. We're in full swing mowing. This early warm weather has got the grass going, plus fertilizer tends to do that. So we're just keep on plugging away. I do want to add, I had on here, Andy kind of mentioned it earlier, we are looking at adding, HPD had talked about the three-way intersection coming in from Demas's. They direct a lot of traffic there at night, and there's not much lighting there, which makes it a little tougher for them because people can't see their hand signals, and it slows the whole process down. So we're looking at possibly putting a couple of solar street lights up there. And then we're also looking at adding a solar-powered caution light at the crosswalks that come across from the Civitan parking lot to the quad. That's the high traffic, everybody coming in and out to soccer, and then you've got people crossing all day and all evening long. So we're looking at doing some flashing possible caution lights there to slow people down. And that's all I have. Anybody have any questions?
Question? Didn't mean to eliminate you down there. Mr. Long's hat was too big and you were leaning back, so I couldn't see you. I thought they gave up on you or something. All right. Parks Director, Mr. Gilly.
I think I've spoken enough tonight. Mr. Long did remind me, though, that the May Parks Board meeting falls on Memorial Day. If you all would be amicable to meeting the Monday before on the, I believe it would be May the 20th instead of May 27th. If that would be.
Knock your socks off. That'd be fun. Everybody okay with that?
Do we need to make a motion for that?
Probably so.
Motion, we move the Parks Board meeting from May 27th to May 20th.
Motion. Second, Mr. White. Discussion. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. All opposed? It's happening.
All right.
What else, sir?
I think I've given plenty of a report tonight on what I've been working on.
Need a throat lozenge, I think. All right, round table, Mr. Perry. Mr. Bowler.
Yeah, I got one thing, that young man that is recognized from Beach, the wrestler who had such an outstanding wrestling season, just went and competed against the state champs and state finalists from across the country and won a national championship. May be the first guy from Tennessee to ever do that.
Wow.
So that's an outstanding. Right.
Can't even tie my own shoes.
Can you send me his name and we'll try to get him before the Board of Mayor and Aldermen?
Yep. And you guys did recognize him for his state championship.
Okay, we already did do that. Oh, well, maybe they should bring him back.
Yes, let's do that. Mr. Bennett?
I haven't been on this board long, but hearing about the issues that we have with our soccer committee, I hope both leagues can come here next meeting that we have and be prepared. This needs to be resolved. If it's going to better our kids and better our community, it needs to get done, period. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. White?
A couple of things real quick. I was actually officiating a game the other night when the lightning detection system went off. It was a relief, and I can say that we were playing, and when it went off, I had not seen any lightning, so we would have continued to play. And after it went off, within, as Mr. Gilly said, but within 5 or 10 minutes, it came enough of a rain where it wasn't an issue if we were coming back. But I will say that once it went off, that everybody knew what was going on, and it was emptied very quickly. The only thing was I had to, I did stop one lady because she was dragging her kid down the aisle saying that a tornado siren had gone off. So I did let her know what it was, but it was a welcome event when that happened, and a relief that we were able to do that. And everybody was off the field. All the fields were emptied within just a few minutes. And the other thing, the current hockey location over there, in years past, we have brought up an expansion of the skate park to possibly be some kind of BMX site over there as well. So as discussions come up in the future, just I'm just throwing that out again, that maybe there's, something could be incorporated with that.
Thank you, Mr. Ed.
Just to add to that, our maintenance staff has done a tremendous job. If you've driven over towards Witten Elementary, when Saundersville Road dead ends right there, you'll see a big piece of land right there that's now cleared off. That is our property.
No.
Not everybody realizes that. It's underneath power lines, so you're not going to see lights or anything there, but exactly the kind of thing you're asking about in that area could end up being a future home for that. But if you're driving out there, as you turn right to go to Witten, that whole length of that road from that three-way stop all the way down past Witten to the left is our city park property.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, and our maintenance guys have done a tremendous job getting that cleared off so we could actually see what we have to work with at this point.
Hey, Andy, I'll just add to that, too. Thank you for that, and also, you'll be seeing some new fence going up there soon also. We're going to put some fence and a gate there to keep people from pulling onto that property.
Question of you, Mr. White, and Andy as well. Has BMX picked back up, because we had a BMX track over there one time in the park?
Field 12 and 13 were once a
Yeah.
BMX bike track.
And it was very, very sparsely used at that time.
At that time, what's popular now are things called pump trails.
I'm sorry?
They're called pump trails, but fancy word for what we would call a BMX bike trail.
Oh, okay, got it.
But on a smaller scale, you see, kind of like we have the size of a skate park, you'll see a lot of bike tracks that are kind of that size or a little bigger.
Yeah.
They include, it doesn't have to be real fancy, it's basically just moving dirt to create.
Lumps of dirt.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. All righty. Mr. Ted? Yeah.
The lights at Field 1 and the football field, saw them Saturday night. If anybody doesn't think we need a lighting project in the park, hopefully we'll be using them this weekend. Come down and take a look at the difference, those lights compared to everything else we have in the park. Awesome job. Thank you very much. Jeremy, tell everybody down there, great job. Bought a few of you guys lunch today, by the way. I need to buy the rest of them. So, well, yeah, you did. You should have came.
Thank you, Mr. Ed. Mr. Bolt?
Yeah, I don't have anything sports related, but I thought I'd just share a kind of a one-liner, something I have to think about a lot more often than I used to as an alderman. But there's an old William F. Buckley saying, just because there are two opinions doesn't mean that they're equal distance from the truth. So I'll just leave you with that. So.
I think we made a movement tonight, so I think it'll start moving in the right direction. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Bennett, second. Mr. Head. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're out of here. Good job.